Someone with that long, curly, maybe even crinkly hair? It's beautiful, but it can be difficult to deal with, especially if you're a child. Hi, I'm Judy Sheer Watters. Welcome to my channel. Here I bring you author interviews of ordinary people who had a story they had to share with the world. I also bring you short little writing prompts to get those creative juices going in your own brain so that you can write the stories for your generations to come. Today, I have a children's book author who has written about her dilemma of her long, curly hair over the years. As a child, it wasn't so much fun, but let me introduce you to Stacy by way of her bio. Stacy Schilling was born in Los Angeles, California, where her love for visual arts began early. After her family relocated to Kentucky, she earned a journalism degree from the University of Kentucky, later pursuing her true passion in graphic design at Northern Kentucky University, where she graduated with honors. Her career led her back to Los Angeles, where she worked with clients including NBC and UCLA and became a respected designer and educator. In 2022, Stacy launched her Frizz Girl book series to fill a gap in children's literature. Stories that celebrate natural curls and teach kids to love and care for their unique hair. Her mission is to inspire confidence, self-acceptance, and pride in young readers everywhere. When she's not designing or writing, Stacy enjoys painting, teaching web design, and exploring creative outlets that encourage others to express themselves. So, let me introduce you now to Stacy. Hi, Stacy. Thank you so much for coming on with me today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Judy. I'm so happy to be here.
Of course. Let me just kind of jump into my questions because our time is limited and I want my audience to hear everything you have to say about these very interesting books. My daughter has she has a real crinkly hair, I guess is what you'd call it. So I understand being the mom of a girl that has, and she still does. So anyway, it's interesting taking care of that. But when did you start writing, Stacy, and what encouraged you to write your very first book?
I've been writing since I was a kid. I also wrote in, junior high school, and college. I ended up getting in college a degree in journalism, and I wanted to go into sports reporting. I even interviewed at ESPN the weekend before I graduated,
Awesome.
uh,
Wow.
which was amazing. Great opportunity. Did not get the job, but at least I can say interviewed with ESPN. And but when I graduated, I didn't have any internships and I didn't really understand what those were. And so I didn't go into writing. I just kind of did a couple other things and then fell into desktop publishing and graphic design.
Mm.
But I'd been wanting to write a book for a really long time. I just never thought it would be children's books.
And children's books, few people realize this, but they're the hardest ones to write. So,
They really are because you have to take content that you know and understand and write it in a way that a child can understand
right,
at their level, depending on what age they are. And then also, children have a very inactive, active imagination. So you just have to think from a childlike perspective of like, are they going to understand what you're saying and what you mean from an adult perspective? So it's really
right,
not easy.
right. Writing in their language and their to attract them and keep them interested throughout the book. That's
Exactly, exactly.
Well, congratulations. Um, and memoirs do come in so many different formats. So you have, I published a book with my daughter, loosely based on her trips to Kenya. So I just wanted to ask if you could share what inspired you to write about your crinkly hair. You wrote, Stacy learns to love her wavy hair, and you can too. So, how does your personal memoir play into this?
Well, I was in a critique group with a bunch of author illustrators from Storyteller Academy,
Mm.
and they were giving me feedback on my stories because I wanted to write like one big book, but they said if you want to make it for kids, it's going to be too big. So I had to break the book down into a series that each kids could understand, like a step-by-step kind of situation. And in the process, someone had said, you need to write your story. What
Mm.
is your story? And I had to think, what story do I tell? But how do I start the story? Like, where do I start the story? And how do I continue the story? And so when I wrote Stacy Learns to Love Her Wavy Hair, and You Can Too, I wrote it kind of like a letter to kids. And I also wrote it in a way where it started at 9 years old
Mm.
and where I was at in my hair journey and the pivotal moment of my life and what happened to me when my mom convinced me for quite a while to cut my wavy hair. And I didn't have the confidence or the courage in myself to say no to my mother or to say I changed my mind or I don't want to do this. Um, I had one of those mothers that were very controlling, I guess you can say is probably a good word. It was kind of like my way, the highway, Gen X kid, raised with boomer parents. So if you can relate, you
Yes.
understand.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the verbiage or the confidence, their ability to say no. And so that's kind of what started my hair journey. And that's kind of where I start the book at, to let people know. I don't share everything I did specifically with my hair because it would be too long of a book, but I shared the necessary elements of my journey and what happened. Because I started my journey in LA, where I'm originally from,
Mm.
and it continued when I moved to Northern Kentucky. And then at some point in my adult life, I moved back to LA. And then I also moved back to Northern Kentucky. So there's a couple times, and it's in the book where I've moved
Uh,
back and forth between the Midwest and then the West Coast, and how water and products and styling methods and weather play a role
mhm.
in your wavy curly hair journey, and the difficulties I had living in the Midwest versus what I had in the on the West Coast. So that's also included in the book to really let people know of what happens when you move, because water does play a huge part and weather
Oh,
does play
yes.
a huge part.
Weather does. Yeah, definitely. Humidity and everything. Yeah, definitely.
Humidity, rain, snow, sleet, everything. It all plays a part.
Yeah, right. So you have taken this little snippet of your memoir, of your life, and written four different books on
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about each different book?
Yeah. So I call everything book one through book four just because it's easier to shorten the titles. So book one is pretty much my memoir, my autobiography of my story of what happened with my wavy curly hair, as we just discussed. Book number two introduces the characters, the Frizz girls. And one of the things that you first need to do when you start taking care of your wavy curly hair is you need to figure out your hair type. Are
Uh-huh.
you straight, slightly wavy, wavy, curly, coily, or kinky? That's going to tell you what products and what styling methods may or may not work for your wavy curly hair. Because what might work on someone with coily hair, which would
Mm,
be considered type 4 hair, may not work on somebody who has wavy hair, and that's type 2B hair. So some products may work and some products may work, not work. Some styling methods and routines may or may not work depending on your hair type. So once you kind of understand your hair type, then you can start to figure out what you should be using for your hair type. The next book in the series, as I shorten it to book three, which basically is on no dry brushing, why we do not dry brush our wavy curly hair, and what the problem is, and what
mm,
the outcome is of this. And then the fourth book in the series, I call book four. And book four and book one are kind of like standalones. They're part of the series, but they can stand alone. Is the ABCs of Wavy Curly Hair, starring the Frizz Girls. And it's literally an ABC book for wavy curly hair.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
every letter of the alphabet, there is a word and picture or illustration of that relates to wavy or curly hair. So if you don't know what the word breakage means, you'll see a picture of breakage. But I didn't just include the word and the illustration. I also include a glossary in the back of the book.
Hmm.
So every term that is in the ABC wavy curly hair book is defined in the back of the book. And I have a friend who is a hairstylist and she's been doing hair for over 20 plus years. So I actually hired her to edit the glossary.
Ah,
Being as someone who works in the hair care industry and understands hair care terminology and was educated in cosmetology school in order to obtain her license to be able to work on hair, I asked her if she would, for a credit in the book, edit the glossary. Please review everything to make sure everything meets the standards in the hair care industry, but also she's a mom and she has two grown children with wavy curly hair, more of curly hair. And so, as a mom and as somebody who raised children, I also wanted her to edit that glossary to make sure the terminology could be easily understood by a parent to be able to explain it to their child or children of what that definition means in
hmm.
a language that they can understand. So she came with a twofold purpose. Um, and in the back of all my books, most people don't realize it is in the back of every Wavy Care, all the Frizz Girl books, there's a little quiz that you can either ask orally or the kids can just fill
Hmm.
out on their own that asks them about something within the book. So it's to kind of recap the lesson of what you
Right.
learned.
Yeah.
And then there's also a coloring sheet in the back of every book.
Wow. Okay. That
Because
was
who does
very smart to have a hairdresser validate your book. That's awesome. I like that. I notice you have, don't you have a word search puzzle in one of
Yeah.
them?
So in the book, every book is going to have a coloring sheet, but I also have a separate book that's an activity and coloring book
Oh, okay.
available only on Amazon. You can order and download, and that has a mix of coloring pages as well as some activities that your kiddo can be able to do that relates only to wavy curly hair. So it's a hair care activity and coloring book.
That's awesome. You've thought of it all.
I
That's
sure have.
great. That's great. Well, would you have maybe a short section that you could read from one of your books for us?
Absolutely. We can read the beginning of
Okay.
Stacy Learns to Love Her Wavy Hair, and you can
Okay.
too.
Very
And
good.
we can learn a little bit about that hair care. So it says here, Dear Wavy or Curly Kiddo, when I was 9 years old, I didn't know how to take care of my long wavy brown hair. My mom used to fix my hair for me. She put it in a ponytail, side ponytail, pigtails, or clipped the sides back with colorful plastic barrettes shaped like bows. She never showed me how I could do it myself. One day, she started talking to me about cutting my long wavy brown hair. She would not stop talking about it. Cut your hair, 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 cut your hair. While my mom and I were shopping for new black ponytail holders with colorful balls on either side, she looked at me and asked me for the millionth time, Do you want to cut your hair? I said, Yes. But I didn't really want to cut my hair. I love my long wavy brown hair, but I didn't want my mom to be mad at me. She made an appointment for me at the Yellow Balloon in Westwood, California. I remember sitting in the yellow vinyl chair looking at the calm and quiet hairdresser, questioning my choice to cut my hair. I remember her saying to my mom while playing with my long, wavy brown hair, But it's so beautiful. And my mom replied, She wants it cut.
Hmm.
Deep down inside, I didn't want to cut my long, wavy brown hair. And I was too scared to say no or I changed my mind. So the hairdresser slowly cut off my long, wavy brown hair, one locks at a time. Snip, snip, snip.
Oh, that's so sad. Did you cry?
I don't think so. I think I was too shunned and too stuck to cry.
Mm,
And if you were a Gen X kid, you know, as Gen Xers, we were not allowed to have our feelings.
mm,
We children were to be seen, not heard. And we were not able to really express ourselves. So I wasn't really fully able to express my feelings, my sadness, my anger, whatever emotion I was feeling at the time. I wasn't able to safely express it in a way
mm.
that I wouldn't get in trouble for it. So I had to stuff them down inside me and just kind of live with this new haircut that really didn't suit me.
Yeah. How old were you when it was cut off?
About 9.
9. You was okay. All right. Interesting. I wonder what would have happened or how you would have felt if you were like 13 or 14, those teenage years, if that would have changed your disposition for a short time. But anyway,
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, if I was older, would I have handled it differently?
yeah,
Maybe, maybe
maybe.
not. I don't know. But when you're in that moment of time,
Sure.
you make a decision, sometimes a split second decision, and you don't always know the repercussions of that decision later on in life. You might
Right.
not find out until like 5 or 10 years or even 20 years have passed.
Right. Right. That's true. Well, memoir writing can be very personal, or it is very personal, but you're always writing for the reader, not for yourself, even though it's your words you're putting down. But what was the most, what was the most difficult thing for you to write? Was there something that was, I mean, did you have to stop and take pause and think, do I really want to put that in the book because it's too personal? Was there anything like that?
Um, Not really. It was more like, what do I have room to put in? What was relevant and necessary? Because there's a
Mm,
lot that I did with my hair growing up, and I didn't know if everything needed to be included. So it was really a matter of what are the most important elements and the takeaways from this book that need
yeah.
to be shared. And then as I was writing it, um, I did a lot of reading out loud. And they taught us that in journalism school. It's really important when you write something to read it out loud to hear how it sounds, because when you're doing that, you're using three of your senses. You're using your sight, you're using your speech, and you're using your sound, your listening ears to hear. So by engaging all three senses, you're able to see, hear, and speak everything that you're saying as you've written it. And now you're able to listen to hear, how does it sound if
Hmm.
somebody is reading your book out loud? What needs to stay and what needs to be changed? And what needs to also be changed to be written in a way that a child as young as 5 years old can understand, and also that will retain, that they will be able to sit through the whole book.
Right.
So
Right.
that's also another challenge as well too.
Sure. Did you write each book for a different age level, or did you intend them to be able to be understood and read by all age levels?
They're to be read by all levels. The books are geared primarily towards 5 to 13. And
Okay.
the reason why is because when a child is born, from the time that they're a baby up until 5, they may or may not have wavy curly hair, because it all
Hmm.
depends on your hormones, specifically in girls, because our hormones are constantly changing throughout our life.
Sure.
So by the time they get to 5, they might have wavy curly hair. And then between the ages of 5 to 13, usually kiddos in that age range don't do a lot of changes to their hair. Some, they may or may want to cut their hair. Some parents, and they may want to like color their hair and so forth. But their hormones really don't start changing until they hit about, like 11, 12, and even 13 years old,
Hmm.
teenage
Hmm.
years. Specifically in girls, their hormones change. When their hormones change, their hair texture can change. So it can get wavier or curlier or become less wavy, less curly, depending on hormones. And so I wanted kiddos between 5 to 13 that were young enough to be able to understand how to take care of their wavy curly hair. So when they hit those teen years, and they start getting rebellious. They want to cut their hair, they want to color it, they want to straighten it and do all the things with
Hmm.
their hair except love their hair and appreciate it. I wanted them to have books that they could refer back to
Sure.
be able to know what to do to get their wavy curly hair back if they change their mind down the road.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. I keep looking over. My questions are over here, so I keep looking over here.
That's okay.
Did you ever have hesitation as to how you thought people might react to your story?
Now, because I wrote it for a specific audience, my books are actually extremely niche. Um, they're
Yeah.
for girls ages 5 to 13 with wavy curly hair, but
Yeah.
they're also applicable to women with wavy curly hair. And I've had a lot of women come up to me and said, I wish I had these books as a kid. And I said, that's why I wrote them, because I wish I had these books as a kid. And I've also had a lot of adults buy my books as well too, because they have found them insightful and helpful for them because they are now rediscovering that they had wavy curly hair growing up, or they've had a pregnancy and their hair has all of a sudden turned wavy curly hair,
Sure.
or they've gone through perimenopause or menopause or postmenopause, or they've had cancer and they've gone through chemo and radiation and their hair texture has changed. And so now they want to learn what to do with their wavy curly hair. So the books are even applicable for adult women as well to learn to sort of
Got
help
it.
educate them. So it's kind of like it's geared for a specific market and age group, but more so it's geared for wavy curly hair,
Right.
specifically women because our hormones are changing throughout our life, unlike men whose hormones never change throughout
Right.
life.
Right. Yeah. Um, so you've already said your audience is the 5 to 13 year olds. Um, and they, who else would benefit from your book other than those children?
Hairstylists. And the
Okay.
reason why is hairstylists, depending on what cosmetology school they go to, some hairstylists and schools only offer 1 day of training in wavy curly hair. Because cosmetology
Oh,
schools focus on skincare, nails, and hair, but they focus on cutting the hair and the styling of the hair, and they focus a lot on straight hair and how
hmm.
to add, texture and color. They don't do a lot of education in wavy curly hair. And because wavy curly hair can be broad, because what you could do for a wavy will be different for somebody with curly hair or even coily or kinky hair. And because it's so broad, there's no really school or way that they teach it except for very general. So if a stylist wants to learn how to cut wavy curly hair, they actually have to pay money out of pocket
Hmm.
and take classes from places that offer lessons and education in different cuts. So there's like the Rezo cut, the Deva cut, the Kaju cut, um, and they actually go to another stylist who actually teaches a cut that they've actually created on
Huh.
their own. So there's a gal that I follow on TikTok. She creates, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, so I apologize to her. I think it's called the Kado or the Kado cut. It's Cado, and there's two dots above the O.
Hmm.
And she has a particular cut that she teaches hairstylists how
Huh.
to cut predominantly mostly curly hair, but it could probably also be used on wavy hair as well too. She teaches how to cut wavy curly hair because most stylists will want to cut it wet and pull it and straighten it, not realizing wavy curly hair springs up. So sometimes, specifically curly hair needs to be cut dry. Wavy hair can actually be cut wet or dry
Hmm.
depending on the stylist and what's being done. I have a curly hair stylist. She cuts my hair wet, and the reason why is we color my hair. So
Hmm.
we do a full highlight on my hair, and then
Wow.
we'll do the toner, wash and condition it. And then while it's wet, she cuts it wet. And then once it's dry, she'll go ahead and go back in and cut my hair dry. But she also has curly hair and she's curly hair approved.
Hmm.
So I have no fears about how she cuts my hair because I trust her. Um, but other hairstylists will say, I know how to cut it, but they really don't understand how to cut it. And curly hair is just a little bit easier because you can cut it by curl clumps. Wavy is a little bit different because it's not curly and it's not straight and it's kind of that weird in between, and you have to cut it just right so it lays right. And
Mm.
sometimes some wavies might like to straighten their hair, and some may not. So it's just there needs to be more education, and there's still not enough education.
Wow. Didn't know there was so much to. I'm one of those guilty moms who um, I didn't tend my daughter for her hairstyle. It was like put it in a ponytail or whatever, and I wasn't upset with it. And it wasn't until she became a surgeon that she cut it like to here. But
Mm.
then she didn't like it, so she let it grow again, and it's fuzzy again. So, um, how'd you decide on your book cover? Do you have one there? Can you pick it up and show us?
Yeah, so I'll show you book number 3.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
this is book number 3, and I wanted something memorable. And what happened, it spurned out with my shirt, which says, I love my wavy hair. And the reason why I created a shirt that says, I love my wavy hair is I collect, and I have a t-shirt called I Love LA.
Mm,
And that's where I'm originally from. And then there's the I Love New York t-shirt.
sure.
And so I got the idea from the I Love LA, New York t-shirts to create shirts for myself and all the characters to say, I love my wavy hair, or I love my curly hair, or coily or kinky hair. And I also created shirts for public for the sale called I Love the Frizz Girls. And so what I did was I took the heart that I created from the shirts and decided to create the background of the books. So the background of the book is red hearts on a black background.
Okay.
And then I had to find a way to how do I just create the design of the book. And being a graphic designer for over 25 plus years,
Mm,
working for a number of small and large companies, a lot of large companies in Los Angeles, I learned a lot in my design years. And I had to figure out a way is how am I going to make this book feel like a series and feel connected?
mhm,
So whatever book you picked up, you knew it was part of the series. So part of the series includes in all the step-by-step books, like this one, the red
mhm.
hearts on a black background.
Oh, I see.
Um, and on the spine, it's really hard to see. There's a little heart between my
Oh,
name
yes. Uh-huh. See it?
and
Mhm.
in the book, in the ABC book, which I don't have with me right now, there's no heart on my book, but there's also heart in there. I try to make them match so the design would feel cohesive.
Sure.
So the front covers are all going to kind of match the style, and then the back cover is going to match the style as well too. So my picture and my bio are going to be in the same location as well as the QR code, the barcode, the website address is going to be in the same location as well, the copyright, and then the top half of this area will change. So the bottom half will stay the same. The top will change
Hmm.
based on the title of the book. And then you'll notice in book 3, everything down here stayed the same, but the characters moved. And
Oh,
then you've
yeah.
got the little blurb about the book, and then you've got a picture of Rachel. And then in my back of my book, you'll notice it's pictures of
Okay.
me from inside the book and then a blurb of the book.
Let me see the
So,
front cover of that one. Yeah, yeah. Okay,
so
that was your first one, right?
yeah, this is my first one. So every book, the top third half of the book, that white space will change to a blurb. It could be a reader review. It could be a blurb and a reader review, graphics, whatever I feel that that book needs to have, that will
Hmm.
change. So that way, every book is pretty much, if you look at the back from the middle way down, everything is pretty much going to be standard. So it's cohesive.
Okay.
So I apply the things that I learned in graphic design school because I have a graphic design degree as well too, but also in my years of being a graphic and website designer, I did a lot of branding for clients where I created a logo and everything up to a website in between. And so when I create and design my books, I'm not just creating them for kids, I'm also thinking as a graphic designer. And I'm thinking of how do I brand my book so
Hmm.
that way, no matter who picks it up, they know that this is Stacy Schilling's book and it's part of the Frizz Girl series. So everything is branded under the Frizz Girl brand.
Okay.
So my books are all branded. We have a hair journal that's branded. We also have retail merchandise that's also branded on under the Frizz Girls. So we're not just selling books to children or even adults. We're actually selling a brand.
Yes, I see that. So they could go to Amazon and get just call up the Frizz Girls and they could find t-shirts and things like that, right?
T-shirts are not available on the Amazon shop because they're custom to order.
Oh,
So if
okay.
you want a t-shirt, you actually have to go to my website.
Okay.
So it's www.thefirzgirls.com. And under the Shop Now button, you will find every book, as well as all four books are sold in sets, whether I sign them or unsigned. You will see single order pricing and bulk order pricing. You will see links to my Amazon account to purchase the activity and color page because that's getting printed out of Amazon. But you also see on my website options to purchase t-shirts because we have the
Mm,
t-shirts available in white and gray for youth, women, and men. So we have youth, women, and men's sizes
mm.
and colors. So you pick whether you need a woman or a man's, whether you want a white shirt or a gray shirt, and then what size you need. And then we have two different designs on the front of the shirt. So those are actually custom order. And then I have a t-shirt vendor that will print them out. And when they're printed, they'll get mailed to you. And then obviously, if you need a bulk order of a particular size or multiple sizes, just email me and we can do bulk order pricing for that.
All right, all right. Stacy, what made you decide to illustrate your own books?
Well, as an artist and designer, I'm also an illustrator.
Hmm,
So I did not feel that it was relevant or necessary to hire somebody to illustrate my books when I know how to do that.
right.
And because my books are so personal, and because I'm a character in the book, who better yet to illustrate themselves than myself?
Yeah, perfect, perfect. And then did the stories come first or did the artwork come first?
The artwork came first. When I decided on these characters, it was first creating my character. And the first thing I thought about was face shapes. So
Mm,
I went and thought about when you learn art, one of the things you learn about in art is the elements of art. And one of the elements of art is shapes. And people have face shapes.
right.
We have diamond shapes, oval shapes, heart shapes, square, rectangular, so forth. So I had to think about what is my face shape. So I had to look at my face shape. And then I started sketching out the idea and myself, my character. And then as I created me, I'm like, there has to be more characters. And because my aunt has curly hair, I made her a character in the book. So I started sketching out her. And one of my really good friends has a granddaughter with curly hair. So I made her a character in the book.
Uh,
And then I decided, well, let's just make up the rest of the characters. So three of the characters are based on real people, and the last four are based on whomever. So if they look like you, yay, but no funds for that. No royalties come.
yeah.
So once I created the sketch idea on paper, then I took that concept and moved into Illustrator, where I predominantly work out of. And then I started working on the illustrations directly in Illustrator
Hmm.
until I got to where I needed them to be. But as an artist, one of the things we do a lot is looking at other images and
Hmm.
looking at other work. So I did a lot of looking at other cartoons, looking at other styles, looking at what other illustrators have created and what style did they do and what worked, and try to figure out based on my illustration style and based on what comics and cartoons were looking like, how should my book characters look?
Hmm.
what should their eyes look like, their nose, their mouth, their hair. And so doing a lot of research and looking and sketching out ideas, from paper and digitally back and forth. It took a while, but once I had the artwork completed, then it was a matter of doing the story. And that's kind of how it works in my world. I'm kind of sort of like the backwards person because usually I'll do artwork first and then
Right.
I'll write the story around the artwork. Um,
Huh. Yeah, that is really different because usually, like for me, because I'm a non-designer, I do the story first and then I say to the illustrator, draw these pictures that would go with the story.
And because I have 2 degrees. I have a degree in journalism
Mm,
and I also have a degree in graphic design.
right.
So I have a writing degree and a design degree. And you would think they don't work together, but they actually coexist with
Oh,
one
yeah.
another. And I use them in both worlds. And in the design world, I'm also known as a typography designer, which is
Mm,
really hard to design with just typography, which is all font and no images. And so what I was able to do was marry my writing background and my artistic background,
oh,
design background. And because I know how to write and I know how to do art, it was easy for me to create everything artistic based first.
sure.
And then once all the artwork was created, look at the artwork and go, what is the story that I want to tell?
Hmm. All
So if the story wasn't told, I could actually create the story based on the artwork.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Well, some of my listeners only want to write for their families. They don't want to publish. Others at some point want to publish. What advice would you give to first-time writers or first-time authors who want to be an author? They're not an author yet, they're writers. What advice would you give to them?
First, start writing. As a writer writes every day,
Mhm.
and they need to write a story, and it could be a short story or a long story. Another thing they could do is they can take a class online, or sometimes some places will offer free lessons. So a couple weeks ago, Hay House offered like a 5-day training to
Mm,
potential people who want to become an author. And every day of that training, they featured something specific
mm,
that dealt with their business as well as writing. I know Storyteller Academy, which primarily focuses on children's books, they do that every few months,
mm,
maybe 3 or 4 times a year for a week on Facebook. And on Zoom, they'll do Children's Week where you'll meet new instructors that'll be teaching a different course, and you'll learn something about the program as well as learn a lot about writing.
right,
So in order to become a writer, you need to learn how to write and you need to write well. And it's just not writing for an hour, it's like writing every day.
sure, right. Good advice, good advice. Now, did you completely self-publish or did you go through another publisher?
I self-published,
Hmm.
and the reason why I did that is publishing houses are really hard to get into.
Hmm.
It is a very, very tough market.
Right.
It's almost like gridlock. And in order to get into a publishing house, you need to you need to write a letter to they call it a query. You need to write it to an agent. You need to pitch to an agent who you are, but your book or your book ideas. And your book may or may not be written. It may be, in a manuscript form. When you send it to an agent, they get stacks of books. I mean, stacks. They may take 4 years to get to yours,
Right.
depending on how big the stack is, because they're going to read some of it and they might read, don't, nope, 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 nope. And they might just go through 4 piles of no's. And they might go through the fifth pile and find, this is a maybe. And they may pull that out. And so it could sit there for a really long time. Because the hair market and the products and the education for wavy curly hair were starting to grow, I wanted to be part of that market. I wanted a piece of that pie for myself. So I made the decision to self publish because I have a writing degree. a journalism degree. I have a design degree. I know how to do the do. I know how to set the artwork up for the printer because I've
Hmm.
done that for myself, but I've also been hired to do that for multiple clients throughout my career. So for me, and I also know how to market. So for me, it was kind of like a no-brainer. And because I know how to do every genre, I know how to write, I know how to edit, I know how to design, I know how to layout, I know how to work with the printers and how to make sure they're printed correctly. I know how to market and sales because I've been doing all that throughout my life. And I didn't have to pay anyone additional money. It made sense for me to put the sweat equity in for myself to be able to do everything myself because I know how to do it because I've been
Hmm.
doing it for so long, not
Right.
just for myself, but I've been doing it for other clients and companies that I was hired to do it for. So
Hmm.
for me, it was kind of a no-brainer. But for other people, it might not be an option,
Right.
and
Right.
that's okay.
But I know it does take the going time now is 4 to 7 years to get a, if you're lucky enough to get into a main traditional publisher.
And
And I'm
some
finding there's so many self-published books nowadays that are really selling gangbusters, they're really selling well. So,
Yeah, and then sometimes if your book is selling well, a publisher may decide to take
hmm,
on that book and work with you, but then you're giving up some control from it
yes,
and you're giving up some rights and royalties. So you have to ask yourself, if a traditional publisher is coming to you, what are they offering you? What's in it for, what's in it for them and what's in it for you?
right,
And
exactly.
and does it make sense to leave and go with that publisher or not? And it all depends.
Hmm.
I may in the future have a publisher that wants to work with me, but then again, I don't care because I'm not just selling books, I'm selling a brand.
Yeah, that's true. That's very smart the way you set that up. Good for you. Kudos for you. So looking back on the writing, sometimes we say the writing is the least of the problem. It's the publishing and the marketing of all. But from writing, publishing, marketing, what have you learned about yourself?
I can do anything. I'm capable of doing it. I have
Right.
the skill set and I have the talent, but I also am capable of also in which, and this is a big one for most people. I can handle it and I have no problem. Being an artist and a designer, I have had my work critiqued throughout my life,
Mm,
all the way from a kid as a professional.
sure.
I've had it critiqued at school, at work, in art exhibitions, in design competitions throughout my life, all the way from a kid to a professional. I'm fine with criticism. I
Mm,
don't care because sometimes somebody else, whether they're a professional or amateur, will see something in my work that I could do better. I can make an improvement. They can see a mistake that I didn't catch, that
right.
I wasn't aware of. They can see how I can make the next book or the next design or the next art piece better to the next level. And so, one of the hardest things for most people is taking criticism
You're right.
and accepting that it's not because they're trying to slaughter you or your work or your book, but it's to help make you a better author or a better
Hmm.
illustrator. So when people give me feedback on my writing and my stories, and I'm actually in a critique group right now where they're giving me feedback on my artwork, on my illustrations, and they're also giving me feedback on my story. I take what they say seriously and I listen to it. And I ask myself, are they saying it because they're being mean and nasty and they think they're
Hmm.
better than me? Or are they saying it to help me look at my work from a new perspective and ask myself, is this really the right way to say what I need to say? Is it really reaching my target audience? Does the story and the pictures work together as a team?
Hmm.
And so, really listening and not taking so much offense to it, and to say what is relevant and necessary that I can take, and what has to be changed
Mm,
based on the feedback that I've given, and what am I going to keep based on my integrity of this is my work and I'm not willing to change.
right. That's hard to do. That is one of the hardest things for new authors to do is to take that critique. I know.
Yes,
Yeah. So, Stacy, now what? Another book?
several books. So I have a journal already published. I'm actually in the process of illustrating, and I actually have to go back and rewrite the story. So I have a new book coming out next year. This is actually outside of the Frizz Girl series.
Okay.
This is going to be geared for kiddos in first to third grade. And I'm in the middle of illustrating, and I'm loving where the illustrations are going. And the story is not matching the illustration. So now I have to go back and rewrite the story to match the illustration because I'm doing them first because why not?
Why not?
And I'm already laying out the book, and the flow of the book is actually working. I just showed the critique group yesterday, and I got some amazing positive feedback. They love the illustration and they love the flow of everything. So we're in the right track for that one. And then one of my really great friends that I met in college, she has a communications degree and she also has a master's in writing. Her and I are actually writing a journal together. She's
Oh,
actually written it, and I'm actually doing all the design and layout work. And it's called Story Starters. And
okay.
she has an ADHD brain. She can start a story, but she doesn't know how to finish the story.
Sure.
And we actually had a conversation about that this summer. And I said, that could actually be a book. And she's like, really? I
Oh,
said, yeah. I said, do you know how many people that want to write a book and become an author, but they don't know how to start a story?
exactly.
I
Yeah.
said, so if you'll write everything, I'll design and lay it out, and we'll go and get the ISBN number together and we'll market it and
Mm,
together and we'll split the proceeds down the middle. And she said, you got a deal. So she wrote all the stories. I went ahead and did the layout, and then I sent her when everything was in and formatted a proof copy to PDF her work to make sure
mm,
everything looks good and change. And then once everything comes back, I will go ahead and design the covers and do the copyright page in her bio. She's got my bios done and my photos done. We'll go ahead and add her photo and her bio in, and we'll finish doing that. And then that will be eventually for sale. We're hoping before the end of the year. That will be available. There's going to be an adult version, and then we're also going to be doing a story starters for kids. So
okay.
kids, because sometimes in school, teachers will have students for 10 minutes do a writing assignment
Mm-hmm.
to get the class settled.
Yeah.
And then sometimes teachers will need assignments for substitutes when they're out. So these story starters for kids can be used in school. So when a
Right.
teacher's out for the day and needs an assignment, she can actually tell the kids, I need you to write 5 story starters. Pick 5 of them and write. And then I want you to share your work and do a presentation the next day in class. So
Mm,
that way they can give them credit for doing their work.
sure.
And then they can actually take those stories, the adults and the kids, and turn those stories into an actual story. So it actually gives them an idea, an opportunity to decide if they want to be an author. And it allows them to decide if they're going to write first person, second person, or third person.
Oh,
And it
yeah.
also allows them to decide what genre, because some are romance, some are comedy, some are horror, and some are sci-fi.
It's a great
So it
idea.
allows them to kind of decide, mix and match. If they want to write, they might decide, I don't want to write sci-fi, I want to write romance, or I
Mm,
want to write horror, or I want to write in the third person. So it allows them to explore their writing style and
right.
for them to kind of sort of hone in as a writer where they want to go and what they
Mm.
want to do for their own book. So
Hmm.
that's what we're working on next.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, this has been fun. Now, one last thing, Stacy, before I let you go. Um, I do the author interviews on my channel, but I also give writing prompts. I offer short little writing prompts so that people can get the creative juices going in their own brains so they can write their stories. But would you have a prompt that you could share with us?
Let me think about that one. Um, if you had the power to change one thing, what would you change?
Hmm. Okay. Wow. That could be in any part of your life change. Oh, wow. That's a good
Yeah,
one.
it could be anything. It could be the beginning, it could be the middle, it could be the end. You
Right.
can make it a romance. You can make it um, a character story. You can make it a children's book. You can make
Hmm.
it an adult book.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, this has been fun, Stacy. Thank you again for coming on with me. And I will have all of your contact information in my show notes and how people can get in touch with you, how they can get your awesome books. So we will get all that information from you and have that available for them. So
Awesome. Sounds like a plan.
thank you, Stacy. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. I sure hope you enjoyed our interview with Stacy. Um, Curly hair is something that is definitely a major part of a young child growing up and having to deal with all that. I know my own daughter had the crinkly hair and just dealing with it. I didn't know what to do with it, but tried to keep it in ponytails most of the time, which didn't help a whole lot. But as you can see, a memoir is taking something from your childhood or your recent past and putting it into a book with the whole idea that it will help others. If you want to sell a book, a memoir, it has to be something for the reader, something the reader's going to enjoy and get something out of. Stacy has definitely built a whole brand around her Frizz Girl kids series. So I will put all of her information in the show notes. It could be a great Christmas gift with Christmas coming up for a child, a mom, a grandma. And there are several different, as she mentioned, several different books that you could choose from, all on the same topic. So I hope you will definitely go to her Amazon page and pick up one, two, or even more of her books on the First Girls. So if you enjoy receiving videos like this that open a whole new world to you of children's book authors or memoir authors, then make sure you have subscribed to my channel. Leave a comment. I'd love to respond to all comments. And leave a comment for Stacy if you'd like. But in the long run, I sure hope that you will come back for our next video because it's another interview, and this is definitely something you'll want to hear. So until next time, I'm Judy Sheer Watters. You have a story to tell. Let me help you tell it.